Joining us now on ICANN Media is Dr. TJ Larkin with Larkin Communication Consulting. Your topic today was safety communication. We're in an industry, oil and gas, where safety is paramount. Is the message getting through to the right people?
Oh, I don't think we've done a particularly good job, no. When I look at safety communication from the past, it was actually better. If you go back and you look at standards and procedures for machine guarding in 1960, 65, the writing is better, it's clearer. I think we've actually gone backwards. I think we're worse than we used to be. It's harder to understand today than it used to be.
Was it because everything seemed simpler back then?
I think we intentionally make things complicated to show people how smart we are, and they didn't used to do that as much. Now that's really prevalent. Everyone wants to appear to be extremely educated and knowledgeable, and they manifest this by writing these really complicated, hard to read things, and I think we've moved backwards.
Okay. Well, at the start of your bio in the program here at the safety conference, it says 60 years, no improvement. So that's quite a statement to make, because a lot of people in this industry and other industries believe that there have been tremendous strides.
Oh, there have been strides in the sense that a lot of, there are many fewer accidents than there used to be. That's certainly the case, and that's obviously very important. But I think most of that has come from redesigning the machinery. It's engineering controls that we've improved at. So we've made the workplace a much safer place. My particular area is communication. I'm looking at how do we communicate policies, procedures, fatalities, toolbox topics. How do we make it easy for frontline supervisors to talk about safety? And in that area, we've moved backwards.
Is it too much of a top-down process as opposed to listening to the people lower, at the lower end of the ladder? Is it that part of the problem? The executives think they know what's good for everybody, and that's what they go ahead with?
Well, let me just restate that a little bit. The executives actually do tend to know the topics. They do, because they see the overall data. So they see that lockout tagout accidents are on the increase, or they see confined space accidents are on the increase, and so they have access to a big picture, which is extremely useful. But then when we decide, well, let's do the communication which alerts people to the dangers of lockout tagout, that is done poorly. That's done in long pages of text. It's boring, it's legalistic, it has to be read. There aren't the right kind of illustrations, drawings. It's not designed to enable a frontline supervisor to have an informal, casual, face-to-face conversation. And that's what we know changes behavior. So executives are important for giving us the direction that we need to go in, but where we're failing is doing the communication.
Okay, so what would be the best way to get across, and realizing we're on TV, you don't have your props with you as well, and your diagrams and such, but what would be the best way to go about it? Some pointers for us.
Well, you need to think that text is dead. I honestly believe in this industry, paragraphs and sentences and pages full of text are dead. You really got to have illustrations and pictures and then small call-outs. And the reason you want to do that is because you don't want a supervisor to read something to his or her people. You want a supervisor to have a casual face-to-face conversation. So if I give you an example, we know that people are becoming accident prone. Some people, a small percent of the people account for a very large percent of the accidents. Well, why are they accident prone? They're accident prone because they're thinking about other things. And the major things they're thinking about are divorce, bankruptcy, and a health problem in their family. If these three things happen to you, or any combination of those happen to you, and you're at work, your mind's not there. You're not in the moment. So I need a piece which shows a guy who's distracted, right? A guy who's perhaps has his head in a bubble, and what's going around and around in that bubble is his divorce, his bankruptcy, his kid sick in the hospital, and that's what you see in this image. And then so that the supervisor can say, this guy's about to have an accident. Do you know what I mean? But it's a picture, it's got drama, it's got illustration. It also has facts. Like, we know that roughly 3% of the people account for 20% of the accidents. So it has to have fact-based, but you need some drama that gets people talking.
You, in your presentation, made it quite clear that a supervisor of all people, as opposed to executives or even union, which you said is quite low when it comes to getting a message across, that the direct supervisor is the best way to go.
Yeah, let me just rephrase that a little. When you ask employees, who do you believe and who influences your behavior, close to 70% of employees will say their frontline supervisor. Less than 2% of people will say something that they read from the corporate center, right? So it's like not close. All that corporate emphasis on communication is really not changing behavior. What changes behavior is a casual face-to-face conversation with your supervisor. So we need to reorient the communication so that it makes that happen.
I have to admit, as somebody who was in one particular industry, broadcasting, for 25 years, I don't know that I ever read anything from upper management. If I didn't think it would apply to me, and usually I didn't, I ignored it because I thought my supervisor will tell me if I need to know something. I'm guessing that's quite common.
Yeah, it's quite common. On our studies, what we do is we look at people who have improved safety performance. They're doing something better. And then we sit down and we ask them, well, why? What caused you to do this better? And close to 70% of the time, they say face-to-face communication with my supervisor. So it was that brief discussion with the supervisor that made them change. About 2% of the time, they say, well, I saw a brochure, I saw a poster, I saw a video, I went to a training class. I think those things are important, and I'm not saying don't do them, but they don't have the leverage. They don't change behavior the same way.
Well, and I found from going to training classes or having consultants come in and tell something, you're gung-ho about it for a couple of days, maybe even a couple of weeks. It sticks with you. Then you get back into the routine, and that's where having the supervisor tell you, I guess, who's there all the time, reinforces behavior.
Exactly. Those are one-off messages, and one-off messages don't really usually have a lasting effect. So you need the most credible person as your supervisor, and you need that person to be there frequently to, enforce the message. So I'm single-minded on this. I am absolutely convinced that if I had more time, I'd take you through all the data. But what changes behavior is a frontline supervisor in a face-to-face conversation. And the trick of it in my job as a communicator is, well, can I give you messages, if you're the supervisor, which enable that conversation? That's the goal. If I give you messages that enable the conversation, the rest of it will happen. But if I give you long pages of text that are irrelevant or that don't fit or they're not in the form that you want them, then I failed.
So keep it simple and ideally do it face-to-face.
Actually, I don't have to do the communication face-to-face. I can give you a print if you're a supervisor, but it has to be a piece that enables the supervisor to do the face-to-face. And it's more than just keep it simple. It is simple, yes. But you got to have some drama. I mean, my senior executives will take out pieces of hands being smashed or people being crushed in machines, and they're like, well, that's not professional. I'm like, we want a conversation, right? You got to get people talking about this. You're an ex-TV guy. I need the picture. I need the drama. I need some really interesting facts that will spark a conversation.
And don't be afraid to use something that will back up your argument as well, obviously.
Yeah, we approach these things like we're engineers, and we want to make it like an engineering kind of document, and that doesn't lend itself to a conversation, so that's a mistake. We can't do that.
TJ, thank you for your time.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for talking to me.
We've been chatting with TJ Larkin here on ICANN Media at the Petroleum Safety Conference in Banff.